أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله سبحان الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله لقد جاءت رسل ربنا بالحق قالوا سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت عليم الحكيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي يفوض أمري إلى الله بصير بالعباد الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين أبي القاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذي يذهب الله عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everyone, and welcome to our session into discovering ourselves through the light of the Holy Quran. And we were discussing last week about we are now touching on the next verse actually, which is Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'in. And it's very interesting. I think I already mentioned it, but I would love to go back to it again. Where we spoke about Shafat and we spoke about Ismat of the infallible personalities that we look up to as our role model. And the next thing that I want to talk about in line with what we spoke about last week is what Ibn Arabi talks about of the Day of Judgment. And Ibn Arabi explains that judgment, or to be fair, it is going to be a day, we believe that Day of Judgment is a day where things are going to be fairly treated, right? And a lot of times when we pray the du'as from the Aimma, we see that they say, oh Allah, do not give me my deeds in my, give me the reward of my deeds, or judge for me according to what I have done, but judge me according to your fazl, according to your karam, according to who you are, not according to who I am. Because if you look at who I am, then it's just going to be quite empty for me. And arrogance in your heart, you won't even be allowed to smell the fragrance of Jannah. And it was followed by the saying that the fragrance of Jannah spreads 50,000 light years outside of Jannah. So the expanse of Jannah and the smell of Jannah so far away from Jannah, and the person who is arrogant, even with the thought of arrogance, is not going to smell Jannah, really put shivers down my spine. And I felt like, how can I not have arrogance when everything about following the checklist of religion, of doing things right, of getting everything right, of this idea that, I want to get into Jannah and, I want to do certain things, they make me feel better about myself. In fact, I was talking to somebody just a few days back, and they were asking me that the only way I find, comfort in the idea of death is that I look at myself and I say, well, I'm better than some people, so perhaps I'll make it, after Jannah, after dying, it won't be so bad. Because, if I compare myself to so-and-so, I'm still better, and compare myself so-and-so, so still somewhat better. And then imagine if that counts as arrogance. I don't know this person's sincerity towards their work, and maybe they're just very naively, in a very, loving way, in a very childish way, keeping this good opinion with God, that God, you've given me the the tawfiq of doing some good. So I'm better than some people at least. So I won't be so bad after I die. We don't know their intention, but imagine if that is arrogance and saying I'm better than somebody, and that completely wipes out everything that's in the books. Now, we always take these things in the present moment, right? So in that sense, if we look at it, what does it mean that everything gets wiped out? Everything getting wiped out from our book of deeds is me in this moment holding no humility for what I've received, in the sense that it was me. I'm attributing it to myself. I'm saying this was me and I did something. That's why I am better than another person. So there's an existence of the I, there's an existence of the ego. And ego is something that always, anchors us in fear. And then it's such a debilitating anchoring, because it holds you down. It doesn't let you float. It doesn't let you rise. It doesn't let you grow, because you're just believing that the illusion of me, who I am, is worth something, is good for something. Rumi says, like a shadow, I am and I am not. So the mystics, when they talk to us about the existence of Allah's reality, one of the philosophers I'm studying these days is Sohrawardi, and he came up with, he's also called Sheikhul Ishraq, and Sheikhul Ishraq means the master of light, illumination. And what he did is that he explained existence in terms of light. He explained that everything is light. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allahu nuru samawati wal ard. So he explains the existence like that. Now, one of the biggest differences between the way he explains reality and creation from what we've generally heard is this. They have two terms for it. The relationship between creation and the created. So he explains it in two ways. One is Rabta Izafi, additional connection. Okay, that is the first model of creation, which we usually grow up seeing, which is what? There's a creator and then there's created creation, creator creation, and they have a bond. And that's what the general idea is, that there's a creator and then there's a creation and then they have a bond. So it's a three-part model that is giving us a picture of the reality. But Sheikhul Ishraq had the insight of explaining reality in terms of light. And he says, well, existence is only light like the sun. The relationship between the sun and the rays of light is how it is in the real world. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and everything that we see is connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala like the sun and the rays of the sun. There's no disconnection. There is no separation of sun from its light. There is sun and its light and it's one. You can't separate the two. The light of the sun is not the sun itself, but the sun is nothing but the light. And it's almost like the ocean and the wave. The wave is not the ocean, but wave is always part of the ocean. So the way we understand this model of reality is that nothing is separate from him. And if nothing is separate from him, we can say there is only him. And if there is only him, then any quality I possess, anything I am, anything I perceive myself to be is him. So there is an understanding of existence as him. And then I want to look at my qualities as him. And then qualities manifest themselves as actions. So my actions are also all him. And so we come back to the idea of Day of Judgment. And we understand that on the Day of Judgment, when God is going to be fair and he's going to put everything in its place, I have come to understand that things are not done by Allah as a as an externally curated act. As in, what do I mean? I write beautifully, so I get a candy because I wrote beautifully. Or I ran a race and I get a trophy. Somehow I understand the way reality works is that for me to come first in my race itself, the gift of health, the gift of speed, the gift of the experience is my gift. In the same manner, if I wrote beautifully, the joy of beautiful writing, the joy of appreciating beauty, the joy, that becomes my gift. So it's an intrinsic world where the rewards are intrinsic. They generate themselves with the experience. So the day of judgment also cannot be something where, people are standing and then one is picked up and put here and one is picked up and put there. It's going to be something like, if you notice, we still do it here in Pakistan. Yeah, I'm sure you guys also do it. When you sieve out the lentils and you want to separate the stones from it, we have a lot of stones when we get our lentils. I don't know how it is there. And we have to just keep sieving it on a mesh, and we keep sieving it, and these stones, because of the density of their weight, they will separate themselves automatically, and the lentils will go to one side automatically. And the husk, I saw my grandmother, she would separate the husk from the lentils or the rice, and she would just bounce them in the mesh, and the husk would automatically come to the front, and then she would blow on it and the husk would just, fly away. So the property of all the particles of husk is the same. So it comes together. The property of all the lentils, their density and all of the qualities that they possess are the same. So they come together. And all the stones, they have their own quality. So they stay together. That is what Day of Judgment is, where things are put fairly into their place, but they're not really forced into being there. They want to be there because that's where they feel like they belong. And so Day of Judgment is more about people coming together into tribes of where they feel they belong. And that's what their place of comfort is going to be. That's what their fairness is going to be. They are going to feel like that's their home, that's their place. They want to be there. And Ibn Arabi explains adab as a word which means sweetness. I'm going to get the book and I want to read it out from the book. Just give me a second. So Ibn Arabi finds a divine allusion to the final issue at mercy in the Quranic word for chastisement. Adab, the basic sense of this word's root is to be sweet and agreeable, which clearly has nothing to do with pain and suffering. An apparently unrelated meaning is found in a noun form that means pieces, strips, the extremity of a thing, the end of a whip. Chastisement seems originally to have meant the pain of being whipped. In the Quran, it is the generic term for the punishment inflicted upon people in hell. The Quran could have used other words to make the same point. Why did God choose this specific word? For Ibn Arabi, the reason can only be that in the end, the chastisement will become sweet for those who suffer it. That which causes pain is named chastisement as a good news from God. Inescapably, you will find that everything through which you suffer is sweet when mercy envelopes you in the fire. And he also says that the real does not make good pleasure manifest until the folk of the fire have taken up their domiciles and the folk of the garden have taken up theirs. Then everyone will be pleased with what they have become. The real will make them pleased. No one will desire to leave their place, and each will be happy with it. Now, You know, in the Quran also he's quoting that Allah is saying that God is well pleased with them and they are well pleased with him. And what he's trying to explain here with the idea of adab and judgment is that judgment really means to put things in their place where they belong. And the constitution of the soul that we created for ourselves here, it will automatically put us in a place where we feel belonged, where we feel at home. And so somebody who enjoys murder and blood and gossip and cheating and lying, they will not feel comfortable in the company of those who don't agree with those things. They will not have, I mean, just in a worldly way, they won't have anything to talk about. They won't even understand the perspectives, right? I was really shocked recently at the genius of one of these people. Someone told me this, that there's this really, really rich guy here. And whenever he goes to the restaurants, he would pay extra money to the waiters and tell them, I'm gonna heavily tip you, but you cut my bill by half for the restaurant. Get me extra food, but bill me half for the food. And I'll give you a really good tip. It was so disturbing, to say the least. But look at the genius of this guy to find a way to do what he wants to do, right? And the person who was telling me, very reliable source, very honest person, was saying that it's not just once, it's something that this person does every single time. And you see the beauty of perfection of the vice in there, you know? You see like this person has found a way to cheat in the most genius way. And how can this person find joy in the company of those who they're completely disturbed by this kind of a act, right? So we see that what we're doing here in this world right now, you will start seeing that when we wake up to these ideas, when we say, I want to live in this moment and I want to wake up in this moment, and the Holy Prophet says, die before you die, then what would be unveiled to us after that starts to unveil itself here. And to understand the Day of Judgment, we understand that to put people fairly is to say that whatever energy I create of myself, I'm going to be part of that tribe. I'm going to be part of that group of people. So your vibe attracts your tribe. And that's what Day of Judgment is all about. You kind of start to become part of the company of those you feel at home with. And people you're not comfortable with automatically shed off. They get removed from your circle. And I was just speaking to somebody who said that they recently lost their tribe, like they lost their friend circle. But the truth is, you don't lose them, you shed them. You kind of create an energy about you where you no longer fit into that place. And you don't fit into that company, you don't fit into that conversation. So, you know, I read this somewhere that, you know, people at the lower energetic levels, or I don't know what word it was, but, you know, people who are starting out, you know, they discuss people with each other. And then you go higher and you discuss ideas. And then you go higher and you discuss dreams. So as your energy changes, you change, your vibe changes, your people change. And that is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be for us and is for us right now, who is showing us where you belong, where do you want to belong. And that is what we had talked about, shafaat, and we had talked about intercession, that if we emulate the energy of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who was unconditionally rahmatul lil alameen, who was giving mercy to everyone, who was kind, who was so honest that his enemies trusted him, who was so kind and loving that he went and visited his own enemy when, when that woman who was throwing trash became sick. So we see that the Holy Prophet ﷺ's energy, if it's emulated within me, then I automatically create that tribe for myself. And I'm automatically giving out these waves, like radio waves. I'm giving out these waves of energetic love. So only that is going to exist within my aura that matches with me. And that's a phenomena that Rumi has explained. And the word he uses for that is congeniality. And congeniality is that, I'm going to find the definition for you and show you. It was congeniality, the definition, I don't know where I saved it. It means an inner insight that takes you to the person with whom you connect. There's an inner drive, there's an inner transformation within you, which will, so that's why Rumi would say that he met Shams and so many others who were vibing at that energy. And we vibe at that energy where sometimes we meet people who are just a mirror to us. And sometimes we meet people who are our teachers. And sometimes we meet people who support us. They become part of the support system that helps us to keep moving forward in our journey. So that is what our energy does. And that is why in the present terms, we understand that energetically, if we emulate a certain beautiful character, beautiful attribute of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we create the aura and we create our moment of being fairly placed right now, the moment of the judgment, the decision. Where do I belong? Hell or heaven? It literally gets created here and right now. I want to bring in one idea. I don't know if it's connected, but a lot of times there are people who will talk about how the world is unfair to them and how things are unfair and things don't work out and everything seems to be going wrong. And they become badzan of God. There is husne zan, having a good opinion of God, and then there is being badzan, having a bad opinion. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I am in the opinion of my servant. So when we create this opinion of negativity, that things don't work for me and things are not going right for me, and we start to blame external entities, people, environment, God, whoever we want to blame for the things which are going wrong with my life. The truth is, even now, with all of the reading and research and trying to heal, there are moments that I get caught up in that blame because it's so much easier to put a blame on something or someone. Because sometimes emotionally or psychologically or spiritually, you get tired and you don't feel like doing the work on yourself. So you start feeling like, oh, because of that person, I am not going to have a good time. Because that person whines so much, she's going to spread the negativity. Because that person, treats me badly, I don't feel good. The truth is that in the end, I am the one who's reflecting everything outside of me. And if I can keep a good opinion about that, which is creating that negativity for me, if I can keep a good opinion, then it is going to manifest itself as something good for me. There is going to be good in it. And again, we come to that idea of Malik Yawmiddin, Malik, who intervenes when we go to him. So in that moment where I'm feeling like I'm surrounded by where I don't belong, I'm surrounded by a person who's going to create negativity for me or toxicity for me, And in that moment, if I can keep a good opinion of God, despite all odds, despite knowing that this person until now has never behaved in a pleasant way, for example. But if I stop myself and take that pause and I walk into the room before meeting this person on a positive note, on a husni dhan billah, and saying, but right now I'm going to keep a good opinion, and I'm going to not come from a place of fear, but faith that this is going to be few good moments of my life, and then walk into it. It's that pause. That's everything. That pause is the eternal moment. That pause changes everything. That pause takes that decision for you to choose from the infinite possibilities of whatever you would like the next moment to be. And so Allah is saying, I am in the opinion of my servant, the infinite God, the majestic God, the God who cannot be fathomed. He's saying, I am in the opinion of my servant. So the infinite God has infinite possibilities. And if I want to keep a certain opinion in that moment, then that moment can change the trajectory of the coming moment, because you chose to have a good opinion when there was no way you could keep a good opinion. There was no evidence for you in the physical realm of this person, of this situation, that this person can behave differently. But you keep that opinion despite knowing that as a human being, you may have expectations which may break. Your heart may break. You know, you go in expecting something good, but you come out feeling disappointed. And then if you're disappointed, will you be disappointed in God himself? And does that shake your faith? All of those fears, these are fears. These are coming from a negative place. Can I work on myself enough to get over all of that in that moment and still hold on to a good opinion, and then do that moment with mindfulness, with a connection, holding on to the rope of God, saying, God, Allahu waliyul ladina amanu. Allah is the wali of those who believe. Allah is the wali of he's not saying I'm the wali of everyone. I'm the wali of those who believe in that moment in the good. Can you find the courage and the bravery in you to have a good opinion of me in that moment despite all odds? And if you believe, I'm your wali. Wali is a guardian, wali is a protector, wali is a friend, wali is your mate. And Allah waliyul ladina amanu. If you can keep good opinion of me in that moment, I will come up to your expectations. And I've had a moment where I really tried to do that. And, you know, I was vulnerable to somebody and I cried. And I was bashed for it, even though I walked in with a good opinion. And it broke my heart. But when I did that, somehow I didn't come out of it so heartbroken as I would generally. I would be devastated. But I talked to Allah and I said, Allah, I walked in with this intention, you know, with a good opinion of you that something good is going to come out of this. But it was the same thing. But when I came out of it, I wasn't so broken. I got over it really fast. So there was some transformation happening within me because of that connection. And the most remarkable thing was that despite going through that rough experience, I still had the courage to go through it again. And the next time that faith, that struggle, that striving for keeping faith did change the outcome of the outer person's reaction. And so it's a very tough journey of, you know, doing this very fine treading where it's a balance between losing yourself to hopelessness and heartbreak and resentment and hatred, but also keeping faith and trying to expand yourself, you know, trying to work on expanding yourself to the extent where you become able to go through life with these things coming to you, hurting you, but you stayed resilient. So when we make that moment's connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala before every moment of doing whatever we're doing, the idea again is not to change anything on the outside. The idea again is not achieving anything on the outside. The most remarkable and the most empowering thing about this Maliki Yawmiddin is that everything is about the inner world, and no one can take away the power that we hold within ourselves. The power of setting an intention, the power of connecting to God, the power of receiving His grace, and the power of transformation, whatever is going to change within me. So no matter how disappointing the outer circumstances or outer outcomes may be, there will always be something within you which will be a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala once you connect to Him. And what can be a bigger gift than that? What can be a bigger gift than receiving a moment's worth of inner transformation where something within you shifts, something within you changes? And that's the journey of the soul. The soul is after a constant motion, a constant change towards meeting with the beloved, towards meeting with God. Now, even meeting God, we don't know God. We don't understand God. We don't know where He is and how He is. And so the idea of meeting God also becomes a very abstract idea. And we discuss it again and again, but we don't know what it is. What does it feel like meeting God? But the mystics will tell you that we're meeting God in every person. We're meeting God in every reality we experience in this manifested world. The pain giver represents the mudil, God in the manifestation of the one who humiliates us at times. And we see God in a manifestation of His rahmah and mercy with the people who show mercy and love to us. We see people who manifest al-wudud, intense, intimate love. And then we see Allah as the one who puts us to size also. Because again, we complete that circle, we complete that cycle of understanding that there is nothing but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the sun and the rays of the sun. So another way of walking into a situation with the right intention and holding onto the rope of God is also to put on these lenses, X-ray lenses, perhaps, where you walk in and you see that this person is God manifesting Himself for some reason to me. And what that does is that it detaches you from that situation in a personal way. You don't feel personal about it anymore. You start looking at it like the professor is not just testing me because he's got some grudge against me. The professor is giving me a test because I'm here to take a test. He doesn't have a grudge against me. He's not trying to put me down. He's not giving me less marks because he hates me. You know, the professor is not in the college telling me to do 5 extra exercises because he has something against me. The professor is giving me all of this extra hard work because he wants good from me, and there's nothing personal about it. So the hurt that we feel associated with this person dissipates because now we're not seeing that person as a person who is personally interested in doing bad to me. And when that happens, when all of these perspectives start to change and we start to shed layers of veils around the way we perceive the world, we start to come to a place where we say, I don't think anyone's ever cheated me. I don't think anybody's ever been mean to me. I don't think anyone treats me rudely, you know, because there's a shift within you. The aura that we create because of that energy starts to shift the people around us. And the universe starts to change. It's not the same. I read a quote somewhere which said, we don't experience, I'm just going to find it. It was written beautifully. We think we're experiencing reality, but we're actually experiencing our thinking. So we have to bring ourselves back into this place again and again. And then once we have made that connection, we have done that work, then we leave it in Allah's hands and we surrender. And we have to listen to the voice in our heart. We have to connect to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We have to talk to Him. And we have to stay within that zone of constantly returning to our intention, where we just said that we want to meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We want to see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is manifesting Himself in so many different ways all the time. And so we can give this consent to come to a place where, when we understand that if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is intrinsically going to put me in the place where I belong, then changing my constitution becomes my work. The energy that I want to be part of, I can make myself that energy. And once I create myself in that energy, then automatically I am surrendering to the flow of life where it takes me, that energy. And in that way, a friend said that free will and destiny are like braided together. They're working together, constantly. And the practical aspect to this way of doing life is that in this moment where I find truth, connection, and relief with God, I take that action, but I keep detaching myself from the outcome. And whatever I am meant to do, I do it without forcing myself or controlling where it will lead me and what outcome I'm going to receive out of it. And that's why when we enter a situation, when we're talking to Allah and we're connecting to that place of, being completely present, we're acting in the moment. So moment to moment, we're connecting to Allah, and we're not jumping into the future and saying, what outcome am I going to get out of it? And that's why our moments of accountability and our day of judgment is held within every moment. And life completely changes, because then you don't even know what's going to happen next. Imagine living a life where you don't know what happens next. There's no certainty, there's no stability. It just feels like you're in the middle of the ocean and the waves come and the waves go and the storm comes and the storms go. And you completely start to lose track of how many days you've been here, in that ocean. You have no calendar. You don't know where you are. You're just in the middle of the ocean and things just come your way. And every moment of getting by becomes an experience. And that's what being in the moment becomes for the moment, who now lives moment to moment, but not for the future, and not having regrets of the past. Now, one of the things I felt like sharing today was, now this is going to get connected to Iyaka Na'budu wa Iyaka Nasta'in, because when we start to do life in this way, where there's no certainty and no stability and moment to moment reliance on Allah, giving the reins of our life into His hands, I want to say one thing here. When it comes to taking decisions in life, and we can't just say, I'm going to take a decision. I can't take a decision because I'm going to leave everything in Allah's hands. So I just want to give a side note on that. There will be moments of complete conviction in our life, where that thing feels right for us. Okay. And our Sheikh Arif, he was talking about Tawbah, and he was explaining that the voices we receive in our existence, within us, they can be psychological voices of fear, and they can be voices of God's guidance. And how are we going to distinguish between them? And he said that when a voice brings inner peace, when a voice gives you inner settled feeling, deep joy, then remember that that's a voice from God. But a voice that puts you into fear, anxiety, and restlessness, those are psychological fears. And Dr. Wayne Dyer would always say that, when you feel good, you feel God. Exactly the same thing. When you feel good, you feel God. And then he would say, look, good and God is just away by one O. One O is missing. So good and God, right? When we have to take those decisions, in certain moments when the voice comes to us, we should take the action immediately. Because one of the teachers I followed, and then I practiced it in my life for a while, she would say that, ask a question from your soul, and the answer you get within the first 3 seconds is your true intuitive voice. But anything that will follow after those 3 seconds, that voice is going to be the voice of the brain, the fear, the ego, and it's going to muddle up all of it and give you a million reasons to forgo that initial voice you heard. So, if you're scared of traveling and you make all the arrangements and you finally decide to travel, and then your voice is saying, yes, this is it. Your heart is saying, this is it. This is my breakthrough. I'm going to do this. But then after a while, you start getting these ideas like, but, what if the plane malfunctions? And what if this? And what if, what if I can't do this? What if I fall sick? I usually get headaches and, all of that. That comes from the brain. That comes from the egoic thing. Now, I can't completely vouch for it, but then I practiced it in my life. And for a while, there was this training I was doing with myself that I would ask a question within 3 seconds, what would come? It would be the most outrageous thing, but I would do it. And it was beautiful. It is beautiful. It really changes the way you do life, to the extent that now sometimes with my friends, when I write, there are dates of the shahadats and the wiladats, and there are dates of traveling, and there are times for meetings. And a lot of times I have no idea what day it is and what time it is. And, I'll be writing March when it's April, and my friend makes fun of me saying, you don't belong to time and space anymore because you're just, going mad, without time and space. But the ideas of time and space, but they also see sometimes, like I also notice sometimes that, I'll have a meeting and I'll have no memory of it, no calendar, no writing anywhere. And someone will message me or something will happen, and I wake up from the deep sleep and see that I have to take a class or a meeting or something. The idea is that slowly and gradually in this journey, you start to lose your mind, literally. You let go of the brainy things, and you let go of the structure, and you let go of that outer discipline, because an inner discipline starts to take over. And that inner discipline is so liberating, because if you miss a meeting and you tried your best, staying in the present moment. You tried your best. Like I tried my best. I wrote down, I did everything. And if I miss a meeting, I know that I missed a meeting because there was good in it. Not because I was careless and I missed it, but because I tried my best. But it's going to be always me in my best capacity, in my best ability, you know? And if I'm meant to be somewhere, if I have to be somewhere and I did every preparation and I did make it, then well, that was good for me. It's a very precarious balance between sounding like you've become a careless person who's not disciplined anymore and doesn't care and starts to miss meetings and starts to mess up plans and starts to, do these things. And the idea that no, you're doing everything, but you're doing it without the worry. You're doing it without the stress. You're doing it without the fear of what the outcome is going to be. So you let go of the outcome. You try your best. You stay in the moment. You connect to Allah. And in every moment, you try to let go of the fear and the worry and the stress. And then Allah starts to take over. Allah really starts to take over your planning, your timing. He will start sending people to remind you things. He will start sending people to support you. He will make work easy for you. It's just like you get into this opinion of the universe where you say the universe supports me. When you start having this opinion that the universe supports you, then you see Allah telling us, what Allah says, that I created the world for you and I created you for me. Then that starts to manifest itself. Everything in the universe starts to work towards supporting you. So you can dedicate yourself to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If we can't let go of the stress and the worry of the mundane things of life, not mundane, but seriously important things in life, but that are monotonous, like, putting food on the table and doing the basic stuff. If we can't get out of that, Maslow in his hierarchy says that if your basic needs are not met, food, shelter, friendship, socializing, you don't go into that stage of transcendence. So once all of that is taken care of, then you can enter into, having the time for transcendence and, thinking of the divine and all of that. And we see that a lot of mystics would overcome the lower needs of shelter, food, friendship, connection, and all of those things. Yes, sometimes physically they would be supported and all of that would be fulfilled. But then you come to a place of fullness where it's easy to just let go. It's just easy to say, I don't need much in life. What I'm trying to say is, if we build very high materialistic standards for ourselves to be happy, if we say that, no, I don't just need a car, I need a particular car with a particular function, with particular accessories, then that's how much longer it's going to take for you to achieve your satisfaction with a car. But if you kept your standard in a way where you said, I just need to reach point A from point A to point B, I just need a good AC so I don't die of the heat, or I just need a good heater so I don't die of the cold, and that's it. It's just so much less that you need to get what you want, because your standard has come to a place where it's easy for you to achieve it. The same goes for your house, the same goes for your life expectations, and the same goes for people. If we can come to a place where we don't have a massive list of things in another person that will give us the satisfaction or the ability to like or love someone, the more we will have people to love. It's so much easier to love someone if I don't have too much expectation, right? And so while we're saying that all of this needs to be fulfilled to reach transcendence, we're also saying Are you setting up very difficult standards for yourself to reach there? And now I want to complete our circle in this conversation by bringing us to the idea that the reason we do that a lot of times, that we want to have a high standard, is because we have very high standards of ourselves, to love ourselves, to accept ourselves, to find ourselves worthy in the eyes of God, to deserve good. And we set such high bar for ourselves that we find it so difficult to accept ourselves of deserving love, of deserving support in this world, of deserving good friends, of deserving that things work out for us. Am I not worthy? Yes, Allah is saying, I made the world for you and you for me. So I wanted to read a little bit from this book, Return to Love by Marianne Williamson. Such a beautiful book. And I'm just right at the beginning of the book, and she's talking about our fears. And she says, the problem is we're terrified. And she's saying we're not being stopped by something on the outside, but by something on the inside. Our oppression is internal, and we're just afraid. Our fear is free-floating. We're afraid this isn't right. This isn't the right relationship, or we're afraid it is. We're afraid that they won't like us, or we're afraid they will like us. We're afraid of failure, and we're afraid of success, and we're afraid of dying young, or we're afraid of growing old. We're more afraid of life than we are of death. And then this is what I want to say. She says, we're just disgusted with ourselves because we think we should be better by now. Why am I not what I thought I should be, right? And whatever abuse they gave us was often mild compared to the way we abuse ourselves today. They might have been mean, but we're vicious. And our generation has slipped into a barely camouflaged vortex of self-loathing. And we're always even desperately seeking a way out through growth or through escape. And we're not powerful enough to overrule ourselves. So when she says we're not powerful enough to overrule ourselves, that's where we're talking about letting ourselves getting out of our own way. Letting go of what our mystics tell us, that, they say that, let me quote this. So I heard this hadith which says that Rajab is a month of takhliya, and Shaban is the month of tahliya, and Ramadan is the month of tajliya. So takhliya comes from khali, to empty. So in Rajab, we empty ourselves. And this is what she is saying. We're not powerful enough to overrule ourselves, of letting go ourselves, of letting go of myself from the way. And our teachers say that, what is this emptying? What do I need to empty myself of? I need to empty myself of my own intervention, of my own interference in my own journey. And that is my own distractions. I keep getting distracted. And to bring ourselves back into a place where I want to understand that, Ya Allah, I am only your servant, and only to you can I return. So remember, we started by talking about going into a certain situation and finding it impossible in us to find good in there, to find beauty in there, to find hope in there, but still keeping the hope and still keeping the good opinion. It's not for us. We can't do that. We are so weak, we are so powerless that it's so difficult for us, for me, knowing that I want to go and talk to this person and it's very difficult and this person has always depleted me, but right now I need to go to talk to this person. And I really don't want the, maybe if I've had like 20 years with this person, I don't want to rely on the 20 years of the past, but I want to build a new future. So I want to go with the new, renewed, vigor and new opinion of this person. I want to have a good opinion of this person. I want to have a good opinion of God. I want to focus on the good. But do you realize how difficult it is for me to do that? Knowing that one is fear and one is faith, and how difficult it is to put faith in this person because I have faith in God's goodness. That is my distraction. And that is what I want to empty myself off before I enter the next moment. Emptying myself of all the negativity, of all the negative opinions, of all the badzan that I have within me. I want to let go of all of that. And if I want the other person to see good in me, I need to be the first one to see good in them. And it's so hard. And that's when we come to Iyaka na'budu wa Iyaka nasta'in, that, oh Allah, I am so powerless. I can't even change my perspective knowing full well what's the right way to think. But I get distracted even within the fraction of that second. So Allah beautifully has written this poetic Surah Fatiha where every verse is the most, rhythmic transition of the human soul from one state to another, where he starts with mercy and he starts with enveloping us with his nourishing rububiyah, and then we go into a place of, Maliki Yawmiddin, and then he takes us into this place of surrendering and saying, Iyaka na'budu wa Iyaka nasta'in. I am only your servant and only to you can I return, because is there any other door that can help me? Does anyone even have the power to understand the complex intricacies of my inner emotional world? Can anyone really listen to my voice? Really? We have no other door to go to, and he's just bringing us to this realization and giving us this reminder that you don't need to worry, that while you're my servant, I am the only one that can help you, and he does. And we all have moments like that in our life that we can go back to, where we seeked him and he helped us. So every time you find the courage in you to say, I want to change the next chapter of my life, and I want to change all of my bad opinions into good, and you don't find the courage and you don't find the energy in you, first, rely on Iyaka na'budu wa Iyaka nasta'in. Allah, I'm willing, but I can't. And then find evidence of having a good opinion in all of the minutest experiences you've ever had in your life that were fruitful, that were good, that were beautiful, because whatever we focus on increases. So I will end the session here and make dua before I close the recording. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. O Allah, we come to you in our humility, in our brokenness, in our confusions and doubts. O Allah, we are lost and we need to be found, O Allah. But let it be nobody other than you who finds us. And let it be nobody other than you who embraces us. And let it be nobody other than you who sees us and introduces us to ourselves, Ya Allah. O Allah, fill our hearts with the passion to find you, with the irada to see you, with the longing to meet you, Ya Allah. O Allah, that longing, that yearning, though it be painful, is the most sweetest, most beautiful gift anyone can ever have. So, O Allah, choose us to be one of those who yearn for you. Choose us to be one of those who seek you, Ya Allah, and who can experience the sweet pleasure of experiencing your manifestations in every moment and every beat of our heart, in every heartbeat and in every blink of our eyes, O Allah. Change every inner moment of our existence so we may see you in every moment and nothing but you. O Allah, fill us with your healing, your light and love. And O Allah, enable us to spread it. O Allah, send healing to this ailing world that is suffering with pain, and fill them with your light and healing, and hasten the reappearance of your last Savior. Amen.